All right. Well, we are almost on the hour, so we might as well kick things off. See, we've got a good gathering below. Welcome, everybody. This is our third steering committee election session, and we're joined today by Luca Crisciotti. Excuse me if I'm not pronouncing that correctly, but welcome to the stage. Pleasure to be here with you tonight. Could you start by telling us a little bit about yourself, your background, where you're from, things like that, just to give the community.
Yeah, sure.
Yep.
Yeah, so first of all, it's a pleasure to be here. My name is Luca Crisciotti. You have pronounced it very well. I'm Italian, even if I lived most of my recent years abroad. My background is I have a master's degree in economics, and I spent last 30 years working mainly for the TIC industry, testing, inspection, and certification industry sector.
Fantastic. And so, moving on to the blockchain question, when did you first hear about blockchain and what kind of drew you to it initially?
Well, of course, it was, I think, 2015 or 16. The first time that I heard about blockchain. At that time, the first time that I read an article about this technology was really, how can I say, something that made me thinking this is a technology that is going to change dramatically the industry, the certification business I was in at that time. Certification is about providing trust, and this technology is even more reinforcing the concept of trust. So I started to look at other articles, of course. At that time, most of the reading was about Bitcoin, but also, of course, about the Ethereum. And I started together with a very small team in the company I was working with to look for maybe startups or other companies that were into the blockchain. And that's I think in 2017 where we met Sunny, and we started our relationship. And since day one, I had really a very good feeling about Sunny explaining what he wanted to do and what was the vision for VeChain. I remember the first time that I invited him to speak at a big conference in Oslo, where the head office of the company I was working with is placed. And he was able to communicate at that time pretty new and complex concept in a very simple way. And I thought, well, this is something not easy. We're talking about, again, something very new. And I think that he has used really few examples, simple words to explain that this was really a kind of revolution. And since then we started to work hands in hands, trying to, from our side, helping in developing from the external side, of course, VeChain, and from his side, of course, to try to accommodate as much as possible all the requests coming from our customers, and we started really to work together. So it's around 2016, 2017.
Amazing. I mean, I think we've all seen the Sunny's "I Love You" video. Beautiful little example
Exactly.
of how you can boil down these concepts into nice sound bites. Yeah, I mean, he's definitely got a way of words. Well, fantastic stuff. Thank you. So, in terms of your professional career, then, how has that lent you to working within the blockchain digital asset space? I mean, you touched on TIC. What is it about blockchain that enhances that?
So, as I told you, I spent my entire life working with with testing, inspection, and certification. And the key word in that industry is about trust. The way that the business work is that you have people that has been trained to check for if a company is producing a product or is, let's say, following process according to international standards. As you can imagine, being this business, the certification business, based on trust on your own people, not all the time it's possible to have an evaluation which is the same for all the companies. With the blockchain technology, I think that this is something that is going to change forever, because a lot of the information that these auditors are trying to check, going around, visiting factories and companies, can be retrieved real time through sensors, for example. And those are information that you can trust, because those information are then uploaded into a blockchain. That was the approach that we had, let's say, since day one. But before to start to work with our customers at the time, we said, well, it's better to take our own medicine and to test blockchain internally before to offer this as kind of part of our services. So what we did was to have all of our certificates into the blockchain. The certificate basically is the is a document that you show to everyone in the market to say that that company is really working according to international standards. So it's basically the result, the end result of this process of checking if everything is going well. And you have to know that there's really thousands, we had thousands of cases every year of spotting fake certificates. And this was, let's say, of course, a major issue, not only for us, but also for all the companies that in good faith were accepting one certificate which was fake. And I remember when we did this, we give the possibility to everyone, authorities, customers, suppliers, to check in real time if a certificate was, of course, a real one. And if it was uploaded into a blockchain, we added a QR code in every single certificate to do that. I got also phone calls from authorities from all over the world saying, oh, this is fantastic. It's the first time that we can have, let's say, assurance that this certificate is a real one, is not really a fake one. So it was really a great success. And after that, we learned a little bit more about the blockchain. Then we started to work in let's say, offering this technology to our customers. We had a lot of things done for example, tracking and tracing products. I think that you heard, about our a project called My Story. We work for a project about recycling plastic, reducing CO2 emissions. So at certain point in time, given, let's say, all these nice projects, we decided even to split the business into completely different business areas. And then I was fully focused basically on projects that had, we called it at the time, digital assurance, incorporating these technologies such as blockchain, IoTs, and tagging as the only kind of services that we were providing. I have to say that this has been really a great success. We have been really one of the first company in the TIC space to use this technology, if not the first. Yeah, that was really a great experience.
Amazing stuff. So obviously, yeah, you've had an amazing oversight at DNV, world-renowned certification experts. How kind of fundamental do you see blockchain being to the kind of next epoch of digital development? Like, how disruptive do you see it being from your position?
Well, I think that if you look at what is going to happen next, I mean, everyone is talking about Web3, which for sure is, let's say, something that is going to give the possibility to everyone to be the owner of whatever is happening on the web. This is really the next big thing happening, and I'm trying to elaborate a little bit about that. I do believe that today technology is going hands in hands with sustainability. This is something extremely important. You cannot have today whatever projects, even the, let's say, most technological one, if you don't think about sustainability, so the environment or social behaviors and so on. And if you look at the possibility that you have as an individual to contribute to this project, today it's very much limited to giving some money maybe to some, I don't know, charity or NGOs or some companies doing something specific. But you, as an individual, can do very little to contribute with your, let's say, daily behavior to improve, for example, I don't know, the environment, or to contribute to a circular economy project, or so on, and so on. So I do believe that with Web3, being individuals, more, let's say, as I said, having more ownership of what they are going to do, together, forming communities, they can have much more power compared to what it is today. If we look at the way sustainability today is, let's say, presented, there's a lot of things that most of you knows about the SDGs, Sustainable Development Goals, which is a very nice initiative, very powerful, but it's directed only to companies, not to individuals. Well, I do believe that this technology will give the possibility to individuals to be more active, let's say, towards sustainable project and contribute to the future of the world.
Very cool. So obviously you've had a long time now working with DNV and VeChain. Do you have any particularly proud moments of contributions, or kind of innovative use case scenarios that you particularly like to highlight?
Yeah, well, I have several of them, I have to say. Um, One of them was really about a big project that we had with the ocean cleanup. I mean, again, it's a project that probably most of you know, and we've been there since since day one. It's about recycling plastic, and after that, other project about recycling plastic and using the blockchain technology. And when you touch with your hands, what you could do with this technology, being an enabler to make sure that people with great ideas can exercise what they would like to do in the best possible way, and giving the possibility to individuals to contribute to this initiative. Well, I have to say that you are proud of what you're trying to do. I remember that in one of those projects about recycling plastic, we open up to all the employees the possibility again to contribute, and there was really a lot of them spontaneously, trying to, let's say, buy tokens to contribute again to the success of this initiative. So that was one proud moment, because again, I was touching with my hands how the technology could possibly support ideas that otherwise would been very difficult to put in place. Then of course there are, let's say, many others, visiting companies. A lot of projects for confidentiality reasons have not been disclosed, but I can tell you that I got really many phone calls by other CEOs telling me that thanks to our projects using the blockchain, the VeChain blockchain, they've been able to either save a lot of money or have much more control on a supply chain, or things like that. So, or be more, let's say, confident about the products that they were selling. So those were really the proud moments where, again, as I said, you touch with your hands that this technology is not just something in the air, but it's something very real, very tangible, and it's already contributed to the success of many projects.
Yeah, I think that's one of the great things about the VeChain ecosystem. It's kind of taking that concept of blockchain, actually taking it real world, allowing people to see the value proposition finally, rather than it being this abstract medium, which it has been for quite a long time. So yeah, very cool stuff. So on that same line of questioning then, what did you find was the kind of biggest hurdle to actually implementing VeChain's tech in the traditional kind of business world, tech stack? How do you think we can kind of approach that moving forward?
Yeah. So if I start since day one, and even internally, when I presented the project to have all the certificate into the blockchain, it was not easy to explain that this is not another IT technology that can be compared to anything else existing, but a lot of questions were, but we already have a database of certificate, it's safe enough, and it was hard to explain really all the feature that this technology is bringing in. It was hard to explain that issuing a certificate was not only let's say, having a document which was much more, let's say, safe than before, but it was also to give a digital identity to a company. And giving then a digital identity to a company was allowing to this company to be part of a bigger ecosystem and interact with other companies. And that was not easy, a concept that was not easy to be explained at the beginning. The second difficult thing, not for, or not only for us at that time, but also for many companies, that when you start to talk about cryptocurrency or tokens that are, of course, needed to say make sure that the blockchain is working, many of them were a little bit scared. Many of the companies that I've met some years ago were thinking about the Bitcoin and were thinking about also the VT as, kind of financial investment. And of course, that was it was not easy to explain and convince, finance directors and CEOs that we were not like, let's say, the Bitcoin, and we were talking about instead about again something completely different. The third point is that when we started again years ago, rules and regulations about blockchain and how to manage tokens were not clear. Today, fortunately, many countries are, let's say, issuing new rules, and it's, let's say, much more easier to deal with that. But at that time, I have to say it was very difficult. Those were, let's say, the three main thing. If I may add a fourth one, sometimes it was then maybe possible to let's say have the CEO or let's say the people in charge of a specific project convinced. But then when it was about developing the project internally, you need to have also an IT infrastructure that is ready to, let's say, accommodate this technology. And you need to create a lot of point of contacts between your IT infrastructure, if you are using, for example, sensors or tagging, and then the blockchain. And that, again, especially at the beginning, this was not easy. And we spent really a lot of time also educating a little bit from the DMV point of view, some IT companies in, let's say, what was needed to do in order to deal with the VeChain technology.
Great stuff. So how obviously you've got a wealth of experience at this point. How are you kind of applying those previous experiences in future conversations to shape the future development of the foundation?
Well, I think that what I can contribute the most is the fact that I'm bringing in, let's say, experiences in so many different sectors. When I was in DNV, but also in previous, let's say, tech companies, I've been working with 40 different industry sectors. I bring also an international experience. It means that I've been living in Japan. I've been living in China 3 years, Japan 3 years, the last 7 years in London. I've been traveling really around the world many times. And this is also something important because one thing is to talk about one project or presenting the VeChain technology in, US. One thing is to do the same in another part of the world. You need to make sure that you are speaking also, say, the local language. That's very important. You need also to understand that every industry sectors have different challenges, and you need to make priorities because you cannot work for, let's say, everyone at the same time. You need to develop, for example, this new concept of, let's say, digital transformation together with sustainability. Those are the areas where I think I can contribute the most.
Very good. Obviously, as we touched on, you've got a wealth of experience, but how much experience have you had with the crypto community at large, and how do you think the foundation can better support kind of community projects and growth?
Well, I have to say that the crypto community is extremely important, especially for a company like VeChain. I've been interacting with the VeChain community while, let's say, I was in DMV for some specific project, or when I was, let's say, asked some questions about specific project. In the last months, I've been a little bit quiet, but I do believe that the crypto community is something extremely important. I've seen a lot of, let's say, discussions, and I see that there's a lot of people with passion for the topic, passion for VeChain. They're developing things. They're proposing also, to take care about maybe some specific topics. Some of them, of course, are also, let's say, they've been or issuing criticism about something which is also very important because, of course, VeChain has to take care also about who is not happy or who would like to see things developing in a different way. Now, I've been part of, again, in my entire life, of many communities. I would say in the last experience, especially, I mean, communities talking about sustainability topics or about energy efficiency, CO2 emissions, but also digital transformation. I've been, part of associations, again, with thousands of people, let's say, contributing to topics. So I'm used to, to deal with that. And what I can tell you is that, I mean, again, if I would be elected, I mean, I would, let's say, encourage VeChain and the management team, of course, to take care about the community also in a new way. I mean, probably much more interaction these days. For example, we talk about quite a lot about the DAO, the centralized autonomous organization. These may be also a way to involve the crypto community more and more. For example, asking for some vote or leaving the community to decide exactly, where to go. This is really the future for VeChain, where decision has to be taken by the community. So this is what, let's say, I would like to do as if I would be elected in the steering committee.
Fantastic. So yeah, it's a nice pivot onto the steering committee at large. So you touched on DAO, which is, I think a good direction as well. But what do you think another core focus of the foundation should be in the coming years?
Absolutely. I think that this is really, something that VeChain should do, let's say, I would say internally how VeChain is working, but it should also be part of, let's say, the technology that VeChain is, let's say, developing. We talk quite a lot about ecosystems, and I think that the DAO could be one very important, let's say, element of any ecosystem. It will give the possibility again to individuals becoming a community because part of the ecosystem, and then being part of the community, the DAO will give them the possibility to steer the wheel, to decide where to go, to take decisions on how to invest resources, for example. And this is something that for sure VeChain has to pursue. Of course, as it was at the beginning with the blockchain, the DAO has some implication on legal infrastructure, for example. I mean, something that we need to, let's say, think about. But there's no doubt that this is the way that, let's say, ecosystems, but also companies, will be managed in the future. I truly believe that in the power of individuals. I often say that one individual plus one individual is not two, but it's three. So I truly believe that once individuals would like to, let's say, contribute to achieving certain kind of goals or towards certain topics, if they, let's say, are together, they are much more powerful than, let's say, a more institutional, traditional company.
Absolutely. I think we can see that in the unfolding Web3 space now in all kinds of areas, right? The more people you get behind a movement, the more power it has. Like top-down approach is no longer the kind of favored route for this emerging kind of world. Great answer. Thank you very much. So how do you think your current kind of expertise sorry, how will you apply your expertise to make your tenure as a member of the steering committee successful? You know, what will you bring that will shape the operational aspects of the steering committee successfully?
Well, I think that VeChain is, let's say, a startup these days. I'm not sure if we can still decide or define VeChain as startup, meaning that, of course, VeChain is growing, it's hiring a lot of people. And as all these startups, there's a need to make sure that they are looking at, let's say, the operation in a slightly different way. I'm not saying that, in VeChain, they should apply, let's say, corporate rules as for a multinational company. But there's a need that while you're growing, you need to put in place, again, a governance model. You need to put in place an infrastructure, an organizational setup, making sure that dynamics are a little bit different compared to the old days where maybe it was Sunny and maybe a few other people. And I think that from that point of view, I can bring in my experience. I've been part of small and mid-size company board, so I'm not only working for a big multinational companies, but I've touched with my hands and contributed to grow, let's say, many small companies. So I think that this is also, again, something that I could bring in based on, again, what I've done in the last 30 years.
Amazing. So, assuming you are successfully voted in, what would be a major goal you would want to push towards? With the end of the next steering committee, what would be an objective for you?
So the main goal for me is to have VeChain recognized as the most, let's say, sustainable blockchain company. And when I say sustainable, is not only referred to, let's say, the resources that VeChain is using internally to work, but mainly to, let's say, the projects that VeChain is supporting. This means that it's not only let's say, using the technology for developing sustainable projects, but it's thinking about and developing this technology in that direction. So making sure that if, let's say, a developer would like to use the VeChain technology, could find answers to some specific challenges in translating, for example, a sustainability topic, sustainability challenge, into something that, again, can be embedded into the technology. I'm thinking, for example, as, basic thing, CO2 calculator, for example, but also many, many other things that are in even different dimensions. I was mentioning, again, the energy efficiency, but also circular economy or the social capital dimension. So this would be really the goal I would like to achieve. I mean, to see VeChain recognized as the most sustainable blockchain company in the world.
Yeah, I guess that leans into my next question, which was going to be about how, where do you see VeChain in 3 to 5 years? As a member of the steering committee, you'll obviously play a formative role in driving that. What level do you see VeChain being at in 3 to 5 years? And blockchain technology at large, I suppose.
Yeah, so I believe that, well, these days, of course, we are, there's a lot of things happening within the blockchain domain. I mean, more wider within, let's say, the crypto space. Of course, a lot of issues happen with, companies that went bankrupt, and of course, these days are important to, let's say, recover from that phase of, let's say, the crypto market. There's also a positive side because I think that VeChain has been able to navigate, during these difficult times. I think that have really a very good level of resources to develop the new things. I do believe that VeChain has made already a very good choice to work with, let's say, companies on, let's say, specific product. I I think that at the very beginning it was supply chain management, the focus. And today the next step is to continue on that, but again adding this layer of sustainability on top of that. This means, as I said, to develop the technology in the right direction. This is also means to find the right partners. That technology will be integrated, or let's say incorporated in other technologies. It's important to find the right partners, for example, on the tagging side, on the artificial intelligence side. I know that VeChain has already those partners, but it's becoming extremely important again to have a kind of common, let's say, develop towards again this ambition to become more sustainable. If you look at companies today are choosing their suppliers based on the sustainable performances. I don't know if you are familiar with the ESG concept. So I do believe that very soon, I think VeChain should also publish an ESG report, being more transparent about our, let's say, the VeChain performances. And the moment that you are more transparent, you give more confidence also to whoever using your technology. So those are, I would say, the kind of things where I see myself really pushing hard within the steering committee to make sure that VeChain is going towards the right direction.
Excellent stuff. Obviously, you're quite well versed in this world, but we are entering this phase of real world adoption and regulation. How are you helping VeChain navigate those waters, so to speak?
Yeah. So while say I was in my previous job, I mean, as a CEO, of course, I met a lot of institutions around the world. I have a good, let's say, network of contact. We have been also helping some authorities and agencies to better understand what blockchain was. I'm talking now years ago, and some of those concepts have been already translated in rules, regulations, and laws. And of course, I can continue to do that. I think that this would be an area where, let's say, I would feel very comfortable to, let's say, make VeChain available to have a say where those, let's say, regulations are under development, or to really understand very well what, let's say, is written into a regulation, so that VeChain could easily adapt to what government and agencies would like to achieve.
Great stuff. I mean, so from your perspective, do you feel VeChain's moving in the right direction from that regulatory perspective, like the appetite that's coming from regulators? Do you feel the foundation is well positioned for that world?
I think that the attention from regulators, at least at the very beginning, has been mainly on the financial side of the blockchain. So just making sure that people was, let's say, paying taxes on capital gains. But blockchain is going also to transform many industries. So if we think about, I don't know, smart contract, for example, NFTs, and so digital identities, digital passport, there's a lot of things that are happening on the technical side. Think about a certification for a product that maybe has been printed through a 3D printer, that is using then the blockchain to make sure that the kind of data about that product are uploaded into a blockchain. And this, through maybe some smart contract, this is going to, let's say, the certification body that has to maybe certify that specific product, even if they are not, let's say, there where the 3D printing is operating. So this is changing really dramatically also a huge number of technical rules. And that's where I think it's extremely important for VeChain to be seated at the right table, so that when, let's say, these rules are going to change, this is done really according to the industry needs, with someone that is providing the technology that can explain really, what are the key points to make this happening. As I said, I've been part of really many of those tables for, let's say, many industry sectors. And that's where, I could spend, let's say, some of my time again in making sure that these technical rules are updated now according to, let's say, what this technology could bring to those industries.
Cool. So, yeah, on a similar vein, what do you see as the future of digital assets, for the economy? We've heard the concept of tokenization. I mean, what's your opinion on the kind of scale of, how much digitization we could see?
Well,
and what do you think VeChain?
Yeah, of course. Let's say the tokenization, it's a key concept. I mean, we have mentioned some of these, let's say, new things. We have talked about sustainability. We have talked about individuals. We have talked about communities, ecosystems. We have talked about companies, and of course, the moment that you create an ecosystem, there will be a kind of new tokenomics. And this will be reflected also in new business models. When it comes to individuals, for example, I truly believe that it will be extremely important to reward one individual doing something within an ecosystem to contribute to the overall goal, being these, I don't know, a circular economy project or a CO2 reduction project or so on. And in order to make sure that you are rewarded on what you are doing, you need to put in place, the right tokenomics. It means that you need to make sure that someone, again, is paying the right price tokens for certain product. You need to make sure that the reward also is well calculated, and you need to make this ecosystem, let's say, working properly. This will be really, let's say, at the center of all the new project. Of course, VeChain is the provider of the technology, but has also to understand that through this technology there will be, thanks to new tokenomics, new business model, and has to be ready to, let's say, take a role also in that. Even if, of course, VeChain is not going to become an advisory company, but has to understand again the implication of the technology on those projects.
Yeah, absolutely. Very interesting. Who do you see as the customers of the VeChain Foundation, and how are we positioning VeChain to be attractive to them? I mean, it's quite a broad term, obviously, within the Web3 world, customers. But what's your perception of that phrase?
There would be, say, a number of people very much interested into VeChain. Of course, anyone interested in let's say, buying some tokens because they think that VeChain is a good project, and they would like, of course, to gain also some money, thanks maybe to the appreciation of the token over the time. But VeChain has to be able to speak also to companies. They have to make the companies, let's say, comfortable and confident about this technology. VeChain has to be able to make sure that let's say, when companies are asking simple or complex questions about how this technology is reliable, what about the data, what about what does it mean to issue NFTs and so on, is really, let's say, ready to answer in the right possible way. So it means that speed is important, accuracy. We need, of course, to be able to differentiate ourselves compared to the other blockchain companies. We need to highlight our strengths. So we need to make sure that, let's say, all our, let's say, distinctive and positive, let's say, points were highlighted. This would be fundamental. We need also to make sure that we invest our resources in a, let's say, continuous development of the technology. This is an area where you cannot just, let's say, stop and see and wait. No, you need to, let's say, all the time think about what the next. You need to make sure that the technology is updated, the technology is incorporating new features, and here I see where an important process is happening, where you talk to your customers or potential customers or to the community as well, and you listen what they would like to see as the next development. and then you prioritize based on those, let's say, requests, and you incorporate those requests into, again, your next development project, and possibly you anticipate those trends. That's why it's also important to make sure that we look also at industry trends. I think that it will be very important to make connections with industry associations. Again, not only to spread the word of VeChain, but also to learn what would be the next development for those industry associations, where, I don't know, the food industry is going, where the automotive industries is going, what are, let's say, the priorities. That's why, again, it's important to sit, let's say, at the right table, to, let's say, listen about those trends, and again, take these trends internally and think on how to then update our technology to make sure that then the companies in that specific industry could take advantage of the VeChain technology.
Yeah, it's a great point. And kind of just expand on that a bit, I guess we could say, what kind of products do you think VeChain needs to offer? Of course, you've been part of this developing trend. Do you see any kind of immediate areas VeChain should fill in to kind of become what these businesses need to move over?
Well, I think that, again, for the time being, VeChain has made already, let's say, very good choices. I was mentioning the supply chain management or supply chain resilience these days as one of the main area where VeChain has already done a lot of things. Let's say that I do believe that VeChain, more than developing itself some specific product, has to be able also to partner with maybe other companies I've mentioned before, tagging technologies, for example, or artificial intelligence, and making sure that VeChain would be able to present something that could be very well integrated into our other technologies. From that point of view, and here also coming back a little bit about your previous question, who your client should be. I'm not sure if it's correct to call it client, but I think that VeChain should really develop relationship with system integrators, developers. Those are the guys that have to find really the VeChain technology the easiest possible to be used. We need to help them in dealing with requests from their customers, for example. We need to involve them in our, let's say, future strategy so that they can contribute. We can help them, in be really updated about what we would like to do, be ready, let's say, to present what we would like to do to their customers. So that's another, let's say, part of the strategy that I believe it would be extremely important for VeChain.
Good stuff. It just kind of made me think then about the white label model I've seen VeChain's kind of started adapting recently. Like how, with obviously DNV and PwC, Orion One, some of these other guys kind of rebranding the technology. Do you think that's a kind of successful adoption route? Do you think that has much, a future as a pathway to adoption?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that the white label model is something also that VeChain has to pursue. At the end of the day, when you deal, especially with big brands, they are not maybe interested in marketing, who is helping them from the technology point of view, and they would like just to have maybe their brand in presenting maybe a new tool, a new app, or things like that. So from that point of view, I do believe that the strategy so far has been very good, and VeChain should continue also to have the white label as an option for those companies that would like to use the VeChain technology, but at the same time would like to present a solution which is made of their brand only.
No, good stuff. Okay, well, slightly veering away from that then, just a more grandiose question. What do you personally see as the most kind of immediately promising area for blockchain within sustainability? Obviously, we've got many exciting developments, UN SDGs that are being targeted, but what's the most kind of immediately targetable, do you think?
Well, there's a couple of things. So we have mentioned, for example, tokenomics. Now, think about the I would say almost totality of the companies, or at least mid or big size companies, that have to produce an ESG report, and they have to declare their performances around CO2 emissions, for example, just to take this as an example. They have to rely on data, of course, and they have to make sure that those data are reliable, that those data can be trusted. Think about big multinational companies where every time that they present a report, those reports are scrutinized by many, many people. Now, the best possible way to do it is really to make sure that those data are retrieved in a certain way. They are part of let's say a tokenomics. The tokenomics around this data is very clear, is possibly, let's say, verified, and then the data again are trustable, let's say 100%. This is something where I see, let's say, a very immediate opportunity for VeChain. I do believe that the blockchain technology would help a lot, let's say, those companies in making sure that those ESG reports are really trusted more than ever. So that's very, let's say, something, it's a kind of bread and butter thing. But at the same time, also, if we look at the regulations that are to be issued by for example, European Community now is issuing a new regulation about batteries, car batteries, and they are obliging basically the car manufacturers and then, of course, who is manufacturing batteries to recycling batteries at the end of their cycle for a big percentage of it. It means that the minerals that are used have to be recycled. Now, the opportunity is there, for example, in making sure that the battery, will be tagged so that you create a digital passport for that specific item. Think also that, for example, batteries for the car is the most falsified product in the car industry. There's no other car parts that is, let's say, potentially fake in when you buy, let's say, a spare battery or from the market. There's a high percentage that what is written in the label is not true in terms of, for example, accuracy of power and so on. So think about giving a digital passport to that battery so that you know exactly the performances, for example, over the years, how many recharge cycles. I mean, all this information that are stored, in a blockchain, in a digital passport, and then, the possibility to make sure that at the end of the cycle, the battery is then recycled according to certain rules, and then you can again take trace also of, let's say, dismantling this product. The same goes, for example, for food product. You have to be able to trace food product, and but I mean, there's really endless number of examples where, let's say, VeChain can play a key role. It's just a matter of being there where, let's say, decisions are taken at every level, at, let's say, again, regulatory level, industry sector level, company level, and so on. And we have to make sure that we are investing resources also in making our brands more, let's say, known by in the right context.
Yeah, I mean, that's a fascinating example of the battery. I mean, that's, I guess, the kind of birth of the circular economy in that way, right? People become responsible for the disposal of their own produced goods, and I guess we reach that utopic state of actually living in balance with the natural order. Pretty cool stuff. Okay, this is a grandiose one. So for you personally, what would you like to see built with VeChain's technologies? What would be something you'd be like, wow, I'm proud I've seen this built with VeChain's technology? A favorite application scenario.
Well, there's things happening. For example, 3 years ago, 4 years ago, my son was starting a very small business about sneakers. And I think that's the probably, if there's any, let's say, a young person in the audience, they would understand what does it mean. I mean, he was of course studying at school and then at university, so it was not really a main job for him. But with a friend of him, they started this business, and they're having fun. I mean, and making little money, of course, buying and selling those stuff. And one of the major issue was, of course, when buying those stuff, you want to be sure that you are not buying a fake one. When you're selling, of course, the buyer is asking you, can you guarantee that, this is an original one? And today there's different, let's say, models where there's basically a third party, where maybe you can send those stuff, they can put a seal saying verified, and then, you can sell, or you can buy from that third party. But this is something, it's a process that is costing money, of course. And so I think that's one thing that I would like to see, and again, this is just an example, is to have very simple, let's say, application that are going to delete basically the so-called middlemen. Application that are able to make sure that two people, two companies, two communities could trust each other with, again, a simple gesture and a technology behind that could guarantee that what they are exchanging, has been done according to some rules, and they can trust each other. So developing, simplifying basically also the way that people is looking at, I don't know, the wallets, the transactions. Today, all the time that you send wallets, you are pretty scared because it's a big string of, letters and numbers. And when you're sending it, say, oh, I need to be 100% sure, otherwise I'm going to lose the money. So building those, let's say, or giving the possibility to the developers to build those simple application with a technology which is supporting, simplifying, the life of, again, providing trust to individuals, companies, or let's say communities in general. It's something that would be, let's say, my dream.
Yeah, I can imagine that would be ubiquitous. Everyone, you always suffer from the middleman problem, right? There's one party always has more information. How do you level that playing field?
Exactly.
That's a great example. Luca, we've reached 52 minutes into the session. Thank you very much so far. You've been a fantastic speaker. I just wanted to put it out to the audience whether anyone has a last question or two for Luca before we wrap up the session on the top of the hour. So I'll give you all a few minutes to think about a potential question that you may like to ask Luca. And if you do, obviously raise your hand and I'll be able to bring you up to the stage. But yeah, while I give people a minute to think, Luca, do you have any kind of final comments on your candidacy? Anything you'd like the room to know?
Let's say that just to say that I'm ready to put all my energies on this work. I mean, I know Sunny now since several years. I mean, we have been working together, and I would like just to make sure that VeChain is succeeding, and if I can do something given my experience, I will be very happy about that. So just to say that again, I will put all my energy to make sure that VeChain is going to be a very successful initiative.
I've no doubt. Okay, guys. Well, we've got